Kevin Fishbain of The Athletic here on the Rich Eisen Show. Once again, good to see you again, Kevin. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Rich. How are you doing?
What was that game that they were playing where he's trying to throw in these squares into the netting and he didn't get one of them in? What was that, Kevin?
I mean, it could just be them trying to hit the target. Could them be trying to hit the pole?
Okay.
You know, the poles that are around it. There's different things you can do with that.
Okay.
I mean, you could say that you got to love Caleb's competitive fire in the way that he reacted to losing that battle.
Okay.
You could take it whatever. It's a Rorschach test.
I know, right?
It's like, I mean,
but it's
however
not, it's
you
not,
view Caleb.
Exactly. That's how you view it's right. When you say Rorschach test, you mean the people who are viewing it, not how Caleb should be viewed. So give me the real. What is happening in the development of Caleb Williams year 2, where the head coach has been brought in to take him to the heights that we saw Jaden Daniels taken to last year, to be blunt, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, it's been bumpy. Like, Ben Johnson told us on Sunday after the practice at Soldier Field that it was sloppy and that there were a bunch of delayed games. And, we don't know exactly how much of that is on Caleb, but the quarterback's got to get the ball off. He's got to get that snap. And then they come back yesterday and they had this super competitive and physical practice. And Caleb was maybe as sharp as he's been all summer. And I wonder if just that competitive fire, not to mention just being a couple weeks into this, just got him in a rhythm where we saw some nice plays. Still, a couple false starts, again, not on him necessarily, but I think you look back at Jared Goff, and it wasn't like Jared Goff was this instant sensation with Ben Johnson when Ben Johnson eventually took over play calling there in Detroit. It's just this give and take, Rich, and you know this about quarterbacks around the league, like the patience level. Like, how patient should everybody be with Caleb Williams? Because, like, I'm sitting here, like, as an observer, I'm trying to be a little patient, understand it's a new offense, it's a new scheme. But there's the other part of me, and I can see it, and I can get how Chicago fans can see this. Like, they're like, we've been here before. You guys said this with Mitch Trubisky. You guys said this with Justin Fields to give it time and all that stuff. And then look what happened. So there's this nervousness in town, this tense feeling that after last year and seeing that camp maybe hasn't been as smooth as people maybe on the outside might have hoped, that everyone's worried, and so if he doesn't throw the ball to the net, suddenly it's panic time. But I'd like to see us play out, and I think, Rich, too, it's important to, like, put some trust in Ben Johnson, that Ben Johnson has been brought here to put Caleb in the best position to succeed, and Ben Johnson has proven that he can do that, and now we see if he can do it with someone as gifted as Caleb Williams.
Yeah, and the Seth Wickersham book that created, I'm sure, quite the media storm in your world as well, Kevin, is about to, hit stores, and that might renew conversations about last year. And I'm referring to Caleb Williams and his dad having issues about being drafted by Chicago that they eventually overcame. And then the issues that happened in his first year only seem to confirm their belief that this might not be the best spot for him. Ben Johnson, best you can tell, has at least shown the way to the film room, right? I mean, not to be flippant, but that's changed already, I imagine, right, Kevin?
Yeah. I think it's just a different tone. It's a different situation here. I got a chance to talk to Caleb Williams early on in camp, and he kind of walked me through a little bit of his day to day, and how early he was showing up to the building, got his notebook out, the things that he's doing. I mean, it seems to be doing what you would expect, and I think
that didn't happen last year. That was not what he was doing last year.
It depends who you talk to, Rich, because I don't know. I never got the sense that this was like, this is the problem in this city with this position, that, like, I think if you talk to people, maybe like Seth Wickersham did, that maybe the coaches weren't doing enough. And I think if you maybe talk to some people on that coaching staff, they might say, well, there's only so much we're supposed to do. You're a professional quarterback. You got to figure it out too. Either way, this guy, Ben Johnson, is the right guy to get all of this moving in the right direction. So I don't know exactly, like, what that film study was like last year, but I think that, again, there's going to be different stories based on who you talk to. Either way, we can all agree last year was a disaster. It was exactly what Carl Williams and Caleb Williams were worried about, as you said, and now you get to kind of start over. And I do think that quarterback room too, Rich, having Case Keenum in there, who's been in this league for a long time, and having Tyson Bagent in there, who is, everybody loves the guy here as he battles Case Keenum for that backup quarterback job. I think it's a good composition in that room to kind of help Caleb Williams and get him where he needs to be.
Well, I mean, and the reason why I keep returning to the past, Kevin, is really that's the only way that we can try and figure out the future and to see how that's a prologue in any way, right? Because right now we're just seeing cut-ups on our phones where Caleb appears to be struggling more often than not, whether that's fair or not. It probably isn't. But the idea is this coach the right guy to do it? Is this setup the right setup to do it? Is this roster as ready as we thought it was last year and has been improved on the line since then? And those are the only questions we have until we see the first Monday night game of the season in Soldier Field against, by the way, the Vikings, who won 14 games last year, and a quarterback who was chosen 9 picks later by the Minnesota Vikings, getting his first shot. And if he comes out looking more polished, despite having, obviously Justin Jefferson and other weapons around him, that's going to be, I think, front and center for the Tuesday after week 2 for you, Kevin, right? That's it.
I was going to say, Rich, you're going to have to do Overreaction Tuesday for that one.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Fishbain,
not to step on anyone's toes in your studio there.
I appreciate that.
Because you're right. I mean, that matchup, if J.J. McCarthy has a great game and if Caleb Williams doesn't have a great game, I cannot even imagine what the reaction is going to be in this city, in Minnesota, across, the NFL. But, it's part, when you bring up the Ben Johnson element of it, and I'm saying this as someone who's on their 5th head coach as a beat reporter. And
wow.
Shoot, you just brought me on after Mary Kay. I don't even want to, I can't.
That's right.
I can't compete
She's
with
holding
her.
your beer, Kevin.
That's true. That's true. I don't want to compete with what she's had to deal with there. But if Ben Johnson's not the right coach, it's like you kind of sit there and be like, well, who could be? I mean, this guy is everything that this team has wanted, everything that multiple teams have wanted. And I do wonder, Rich, like, Ben Johnson, he's details. And how does that work with Caleb Williams, who does some amazing things off script? But the thing about Caleb Williams is he does want to be in the pocket. He wants to sit there in the pocket and get the snap and go and make his reads, go through his progressions. And last year he was out of the pocket a lot because of the offensive line in front of him and a lot because he would maybe exit too early. So I just think that you always hear coaches say, I am going to tailor this game plan to my players. I'm not going to make them just fit what I want to do. And look, you just hope that Ben Johnson seems like the guy who's going to do that, who understands that, who's going to help put him in his position. He's got this offensive line now with Joe Tooney and Drew Dahlman and Jonah Jackson in front of him in the interior. Mm-hmm. You have Colson Loveland, who, by the way, you talk about guys who have looked pretty good at camp, Rich, and I don't know if you're familiar with this Colson Loveland.
Yes, sir.
Went to a decent university I'm familiar with. He's looked good. And you can see why the Bears would have want him in this offense because of the target he's going to give to Caleb Williams. And he's smooth in and out of his routes, and he catches everything thrown his way. So there's a lot to like about this. But I go back to the top, Rich. It's that level of patience. And is it fair to look at this as like, okay, you're starting over Caleb Williams. I know it's your 2nd year, but it's the NFL. Like, it's just so hard to be patient with these guys now. And you look at the roster around Caleb Williams and you look at what he did in college, you want him to just take off with Ben Johnson. And it's going to be a very interesting season to see what that relationship's like. Because as I said, training camp has not been super smooth, but maybe it shouldn't be because this is a brand new, very detail-oriented scheme that he's got to figure out the same way Jared Goff did.
So when do we see him? Do we see him in preseason at all? Or the first time we see Caleb in this is Monday Night Football, week 1? What do you think?
I think the joint. I originally thought, Rich, that the joint practices would be. Ben Johnson's got 2 of them lined up. You got Miami coming on Friday,
right?
Buffalo a week from Friday, and it certainly seems like those joint practices are going to be so intense that they might not need to see in the preseason game. I think he should get out there for a couple series. I mentioned the delay games that we've seen in camp, the fall starts we've seen. I just think they need to get the operation figured out in a game setting. And they're going to do their best to simulate that in joint practices. But I think it's fair to try to do that at Soldier Field a couple times as well. So I don't think we'll see him a ton because it just doesn't. It seems like Ben Johnson puts a lot in these joint practices, but I think you got to get him out there just for a couple series in those games.
All right, Kevin. Thanks for the information and the idea. Chris Brockman, Overreaction Tuesday. We'll set that up.
Well, of course, we do Monday on a Tuesday anyway during the race.
Yeah. I mean, I guess so that would be September 9th. Write it down. Thank you for the idea, Kevin. We'll write that down, and we'll chat again real soon.
All right, take care.
And by the way, I look forward to appearing on your pod. I'll do that later in the month. I know that we've been going back and forth. I look forward to returning the favor.
Appreciate that, Rich.
You got it. That's Kevin Fishbain, everybody. He's been with the Athletics since 2017. He's been there, done that. Seen five
head coaches. Jeez.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.